It is an early kickoff this afternoon on a Sunday, and probably a task for Coach Pius Ngabo to probably get 3 points over Vipers Sports Club that has probably been performing so quite well this season, not necessarily been putting up big performances, but they've been collecting the points. With me in studios, of course, Tenrita Musoke, who will be with me, of course, taking us through the match analysis of this big encounter where Vipers might be getting another hand over UPDF Football Club this afternoon. Tendo Nectar Musoke, how are you feeling this Sunday?
I'm okay. I'm feeling fresh. Just been to church and feeling revitalized.
Right.
Yeah.
And you made up some prayers after yesterday's loss at 11 p.m.
Well, no, I'm used to that. I've been through a lot of that football hell.
Yes.
And it's just a burning flame.
The Red Devils was too much.
Yeah, I think having been to church now, I realize that we are in times where you wouldn't use ungodly names. I think they are being haunted by the Red Devils tag. Probably they could change to something like White Angels or something.
Angels. I hope they are listening from here, because we are live and we shall be taking the viewers through what we expect from today's game. Of course, UPDF hosting Vipers at 3 p.m. and what a game we do have. The game is also going to be live on radio. That is 102.1 Fufa FM. You can be following that game on radio if you're not able to access TV on StarTimes. That is channel 239 and 252 respectively. Tendo, this game of course comes with a lot of talking points, and Vipers, a team that has been performing quite well this season. Not many fans have noticed that. Second on the table, trying to fight their way to the top, and actually one of the teams from the 3 teams last season that were fighting to the death of the day for the league. But this time around, it's only Vipers so far that has probably lived up to the billing.
Well, I think that is why there is a shadow in the Vipers' performance, because Vipers as a team is naturally challenging the VEC hegemony. And with all the VEC sides struggling, or else very low in rating against them, the excitement for them ceases. When you are a Vipers fan or any other football neutral and you see Bull ahead, you think probably they'll come down. Bull have taken their stride game by game, and Vipers is also taking their stride without all the banter and the watchful eye of neutrals. And before you know it, they will have amassed points the same way they did last season. Remember, they had indifferent games because of their focus on the continent. And having had a failure in the continent, people were thinking that their season is done. And they kept on grinding out results. Before you knew it, Sports Club Villa and all the other teams that were chasing the trophy were within their grasp. And at the end of the season, they come out victorious, even when there was that draw against Bull, if you remember, where people switched them off. And I was talked about to be a blasphemous guy when I said Vipers are going to win it after the Bull draw. And, and everyone was like, why? And I looked at all the fixtures and the organization in this team, and I knew where the other teams could falter and where Vipers could not, actually. So it was an easy wake-up call. Same thing that has happened this season, only that I think even in their camp, the focus had been so much on the continent, and after that, probably you would think that they have nothing to fight for. Having taken the league and cup double last season, you wouldn't think they will be ambitious. But the vision of Vipers embeds itself in the vision of the proprietor, Dr. Lawrence Mulindwa. Every time you talk to him, or every time you hear him say things, that 3-letter word, win, is what is in his DNA. So if you are a person attached to Vipers, all you have to do is win your games. Win your games. And if you win your games with the way football goes, you'll end up at the top. And that is the DNA. And they have done that silently. Of course, not playing very well. You saw against URA, they didn't even move out of the first gear. The only thing that they did was to have 3 people up front chasing that Obua ball, and then making them make errors, and then they got the goals. And that was a match that they played without 5 players who had gone for the Cranes. The only one who made the team was Roger Storach on the bench.
Yes.
And I explained that the challenge is they are decimated in the defense area since the injury of Mukundane and Murishid Juko. Today, Murishid Juko is coming back. Mukundane not yet back. But again, Mbowa is not on the team because he's going to do his exams at the university. So you will see that there is always that irregularity in the defense. But the defense has been shielded so well this time by Siraje Sentam. And Siraje Sentam is that archetypical midfielder who you wouldn't notice. You would not notice them until they are not there. The moment you see him getting noticed, then you know he's having a bad season.
Right.
And him getting noticed is you seeing him making fouls, getting cards and all that. Today, you will not see that because he has added a lot of things into his game. And he's handling that with aplomb. And the form that he has improved the midfielders to be able to go creatively forward. Sometimes they use an audacious attacking formation where 4 or 5 players are up front. But it's always him manning all the areas. And you see that now Watambala has improved. Brighton Ukani, when he's there, he has improved. The only challenge they have is the imbalance in the wings, which were their biggest asset last season.
Tenda, before we get to what the players actually bring onto the pitch, you've talked about the players not necessarily getting into second gear against URA, but the way they approached the game tactically against URA was something that we haven't really seen from many players being able to understand that game. And Leo Neiva having that pass by after not getting to the CAF Champions League. For Dr. Lawrence Mulindwa now, should the focus be now on the league? And you mentioned the results. The football has not necessarily been entertaining. Last season they had Alexis Sabri at the helm. He won them a double. Should the fans now be satisfied with Leo Neiva for what he has brought onto the table so far with Vipers?
Yeah, I think they should be satisfied because the manner in which he has brought these results is a little more refreshing than the previous ones. Why? They have used more of the inborn players.
Yes.
They have used more of the local players. They have used more of those players you think have that fan following. The likes of Abdul Umara, patiently waiting for him to get his groove back. Jack Komakech getting ahead of Fabian Mutombora. And of course the injured Alfred Mudekereza and Dennis Chigundu. Yes. You think that is a giant leap in the technical aspect of improving the player himself. So when you look at all that happening, you think that they have improved. Today, Roger Storach could get a look in because when you look at Murishid Juko coming back from injury, and the last game where he was a little skinned by Sports Club Villa, you think that Roger Storach, because he has been on the national team with a new coach now, could have the chance to have a look in and partner Livingstone Mulondo. So you think that the players that they are using this time are more of those players you would want to see. Of course, the foreigners notwithstanding, but again, when you see a player like Kambale being given time, I don't even think he has come back as fresh as he was during the Express season. He looks a little bulky, he looks a little sluggish, but he was patiently waited for until he had that deciding goal against URA, where he became man of the match. So you think that the squad handling has been a little precious to have this team come out of that shell. And believe me, they haven't even reached 50% of the performance levels. I have not seen a player, probably apart from Watambara and maybe Siraji Sentamu and of course Livingstone Mulondo, because he's the one that is always there when other centre backs are shifting. Yes. The left back is always shifting from Issa Mubiru to Richard Matovu. Yes. So you think they're not consistent. Ashraf Mandela is there. He went over the Grant Masiko threat. Yes. When Grant Masiko came, you were thinking that this former Wakiso Giants right back would ask a lot of questions, but Ashraf Mandela has vintage type of game that has kept him in the team. Not very outspoken as he was previously, but doing his job perfectly. So you think that there is that balance there. The only challenge is up front, where you wouldn't know. You have to close your eyes to choose the players to play. Right. Yeah.
And in terms of the approach to the game, of course, you've talked about the players up front being able to express themselves, but in terms of goals scored, these forwards haven't necessarily been scoring goals, so many goals this season, but they find themselves third on the table, Tendo. when you look at their performances throughout the season, they've managed to grind out a couple of results, and they find themselves challenging the likes of Bull and Chitara, which teams that have probably surprised us this season, particularly Chitara being promoted from the big league. How are they going to approach this game today against a UPDF side that has a couple of players, been recruited a couple of players, and then of course the new head coach Pius Ngabo coming in?
Yeah, it's a tricky tie. It's a tricky tie on the ground, basing on the recent form of UPDF. Yeah. You remember from when UPDF got that draw against Express FC, they have not looked back. They even beat Bull FC, yes, at Bombo. So you think that they have that challenge. And tricky because Vipers has always struggled. Like so many other teams that have a good playground at home, they have always struggled to play away. Yeah. And Bombo has been one of those. But the only advantage they would have is they have a very good head-to-head record. Since 2015, UPDF has not beaten Vipers, so they are looking for their win. And you think that they have to be more energized than asking for a draw. In those games, you would see Vipers winning 8 times and only 4 being draws. Right. So half of the wins Vipers have gotten are draws. So you think that the onus is upon UPDF to perform, and you wouldn't expect a team like UPDF to come that challenged against Vipers. If Vipers can go off with a draw, they would be okay. They just have to avoid a loss, because the loss would be so hard for them, bearing the fact that this is a statistical game where they haven't lost for so many years. So you think that the approach is going to be easier, but the play on the pitch will depend on which players have been chosen. We know so many players in the Vipers team that cannot play a very beautiful game in a place like Bombo. Right. And you would even have the same at probably Mbarara or even Luzira. And you saw how they played against Bright Stars, winning. And the type of players that performed could be probably the type of players chosen to play in this game. They would have an advantage. And if the weather is good enough, you think they have the advantage.
Could that be an advantage for UPDF today with Pius Ngabo in charge? They've gotten a win over Bull FC, 2-0. They managed to keep a clean sheet in that game, and Bull FC have been firing in all cylinders this season. Do you think that that win could give them a boost in such a game today against Vipers? Yeah,
it definitely does do that because the players that they have are a little more experienced than so many other teams. Look at a player like Bernard Mwanga, a player like Chigundu, former Sports Club Villa defender. Yes. Then there is Bright Vuni from Arua Hill. Yeah. Players like Yusuf Waswa, players like Simon Mabuya, that goalkeeper was in Toro, yes. The former under-20 player. You think that they have experience, even Ezekiel Katende. But the approach of the game will depend on how Pius Ngabo has read the previous Vipers performances. The Vipers team of Leon Neiva is not easily predictable because of the way they get in and out of games. Against URA, you would think it's only the forwards that played. You wouldn't expect them to play like that because UPDF doesn't play the same ball. So this UPDF approach is more route one, and you think now the challenge is going to be on the defenders and the midfield, not like the forwards. Yeah. The forwards put in a good shift last time. They are not having Abubakar Lawal this time because he's injured. He actually has malaria. Yes. But they are bringing back a few players. So without Mboa, who is doing exams, and Abubakar Lawal, they are bringing Fuoda Misome. He's coming back from injury. So you think that it's a direct switch. So the depth of the squad can boost them. And of course, the national team legend is available now. You would see the likes of Brighton Ukani, Milton Karisa, you see Jack Komakech and Roger Storach as well. Yes. They are back in the side. They missed the other game. Yes. So you think that they have enough players to look at. The approach will matter. Because technically, I think the challenge is on UPDF. If you've seen how URA and Vipers went, then you look at the other game that Vipers have played. Incidentally, this time they have ground out some away wins. Right. You remember the win against Gaddafi? So you think that they have that difference this time. Leon Neiva is not that direct like all the other coaches that you have seen. probably because of the availability of many coaches on the bench and how he relates with them. Richard Bakabulindi, the former assistant for Isabire,
yes,
the one that came from Bull.
Yeah.
Then, of course, Waswa, the vintage Vipers guy who has been in the school. Then Rau Lukusa Kayembe, that former Mbarara United player. So many people don't remember that he played for Mbarara when Mbarara had the Congolese Legion in the early 2000s. Him and the likes of Babe Mbirika, Bebe Matiabo, they were all in that side. So he knows a little more about up-country football and pitches like Bombo. So if they gang up together and try to forge out a playing pattern, plus Lopez, of course, the new assistant.
Yes.
So you think they have enough in the technical aspect to try and get a result against Pius Ngabo, who is with Anthony Sechito, and you think that technically they could be subdued, but don't be fooled. Football is finally played on the pitch, and
yes,
if they come with the style that we know them for, Vipers will need to dig deep into their archives to try and balance this game.
Yes, and we did get some pictures before of the UPDF Football Club currently warming up in Bombo, and this is the Vipers team, Vipers Sports Club, arriving in Bombo. They'll be facing a UPDF side that has only scored 5 goals this season in their past matches, and probably a worrying statistic because not many goal scorers for them, Tendo. But some of the players for Vipers there have had a steady season. Looks like they have tried to build up their form. The likes of Beka Lawal, Richard Matovu, who's come in and put in a good shift so far, giving some competition on the left-hand side. And then, of course, the goalkeeper, Jaco Makech. What should they expect from UPDF? Of course, that is Awisome.
Forward,
yes. What should they expect today?
Of course, they are going to expect a lot of tenacity at the back and in the midfield with Sam Chintu, Tio, the former Proline player. He was man of the match against Bull, scored a scorcher of a goal. Bernard Mwanga also scored. You think that they are potent players in the back and in the midfield. So Vipers need to play a lot more aggressive football. That is not common to them. You remember in that game that I talked about, the game against Bull, where aggression was their only challenge to try and get that win, it almost cost them the trophy. So they need to have that aggression this time, or else they exercise the mobility that we know that they can have. With the likes of Yunus Sentamu, Milton Karisa, trying to move around, Karim Watambala, and probably Brighton Ukani, whoever is chosen, because they have a plethora of players. There is David Bagole there, still unused to the maximum. So they have a wealth of experience and grit, but they don't use it because of the style they want to play. And the forward they choose probably could be Kambale. Kambale thrives on getting so many chances. He's a player that can score a goal and then miss like 5-6 chances because of his
that is the substitute bench, Tendo. The likes of Alan Okello on the bench, Rodrigue Shamamba, who has made the cut this season, finally making it to the bench and having some short stints off the bench, coming off and probably having a couple of impacts. But the side Vipers, the times that they've come to UPDF to Bombo, they haven't been scoring so many goals. The last time they were at UPDF, they only scored 1 goal, and that goal came through Milton Karisa in that game. Should they be expecting a tough game today? And is it, for example, Dr. Lawrence Mulindwa, should he probably be saying, let us go there and get the result, no matter how we are going to approach the game today?
Well, Dr. Lawrence Mulindwa said his motivational speech, and it wasn't really for a motivational speaker. It was an authoritative speech where he said, no player is guaranteed of first team football. Yes. Everyone must fight. Whoever thinks they can't compete should get out of this setting. So that was a very, very big statement to those players who thought that they are guaranteed a first team place. Yeah. But again, it could be detrimental to those that think that they have that sense of entitlement. And looking at the way Mutombora played the game against URA, to be back again on the bench when Jack Komakech comes is a big statement, of course. It shows that Mugisha the goalkeeping coach trusts Jack Comakech so much. A player who was down there in the pecking order, but he was rising at the national level, and people were thinking maybe he's favored. I think this season has explained exactly the talent that he has. He has kept a few clean sheets. He has been in goal for Vipers when they are not very dominant, and he has put the team together, commanding and all that. You don't see those eccentricities.
And talk about talent there, Alan Okello, yet to start a game for Vipers Sports Club this season. Everybody's waiting. When is he going to get the first start for Vipers?
He will eventually get it. He's being worked on, and the biggest thing is he's loved. He's loved. If you saw how he came in against URA and the placards they had put there, the welcome Alan Okello statements and all that, you think that he's at home. You wouldn't expect that. And if it finally breathes into him, it reminds me of that time when Luis Figo actually crossed from Barcelona to Real Madrid, and you would think that he's going to be hated so much in the first game.
It even reminds me of Ashley Cole switching.
From yes. So you would think that he's going to get animosity, but the love that he got even healed him from the situation where he got hit by a substance taking a corner. So Alan Okello's reception when he came from Vipers and how he played actually gave them a better dimension. Because Vipers will thrive on dimension. They have been so predictable, having Brighton Ukani passing to Milton Karisa last season, and then Karim Watambala playing on the opposite side, aiming for shots and not finding Yunus Sentamu. So Yunus Sentamu has been a little isolated. But when Alan Okello comes in the game, he operates mostly on the right of midfield, and his passes always go on the left, where it could keep Sentamu in play. You saw the inroads they made in the time when he came. So it gives them that dimension to play from this side to this side, and then from this side to this side. So you would imagine if Alan Okello and Brighton Ukani probably are in the team, and probably you have Karim Watambala and Siraje having a four-man midfield, the balance that they would have, if Siraje handles the defensive part very well and they're not required to defend so much, you would imagine the pressure the teams would be having. And if the strikers are firing on all cylinders, like the competition they have deserves, because being a Vipers striker now, you must deliver, even if you are given 15 minutes. If Eric Kambale scores, you would know that if you are given an opportunity, you have to come and also show. It will actually give them the unpredictability that they need to actually even boost their growth into eventually the team that I think they can be, which is Mamelodi Sundowns.
This is the lineup for UPDF Football Club, and the goalkeeper Simon Mabuya starts in goal, Bernard Mwanga as the captain, Christopher Tebandeke, Sam Chintu, Edward Kawoya, Ezekiel Katende, Agre Chiria, Christopher Kamagu, Badrun Simbe Jibril, Joseph Bright Vuni, and Bashir Akabuye. That is the lineup for UPDF Tendo. What do you make of that lineup from Pius Ngabo?
Yeah, looks like a solid one. Bernard Mwanga might be playing with Agre Chiria in defense, and then Tebandeke could be on the left. The challenge now is going to be who plays the right back position. We saw Christopher Kamagu trying to play it when they were having injuries. Then there is now Edward Kawoya in. Probably they have to look into someone who can track Yunus Sentamu if he starts. So that is where the debate can be. But in midfield, Sam Chintu Tio is the main man there. And then forward, you'll expect Ezekiel Katende on one of the wings, and then Badru Simbe on the attacking lot. Then, of course, Bright Vuni is in the defense. So Pius has the honors to even play a three-man backline with Vuni, Bernard Mwanga, and maybe Edward Kawoya, and then have Tebandeke and Kamagu as wing backs to try and put forward. But it will all depend on how Vipers look, because you wouldn't expect UPDF to have a stable lineup unless they have seen what Vipers is bringing. It can change depending on who Vipers have chosen to start.
Well, on the bench, they do have the likes of Rashid Faridi, Rogers Adrico, Mwada Maweje, Douglas Oyworth. They do have some players that can come off the bench and probably make an impact. Some of them experienced players, the likes of Mwada Maweje.
Yeah, Mwadama Weje very useful on the right wing, but I think the arrival of the return of Douglas Oiroth is a breath of fresh air. Yes. He was very good. You remember the goal he scored against KCC. Yes. He has been injured out of the team for some time. When he returns, he creates pressure on the other players playing there, and you think he has that variation in the game. But there is also that young boy Sugar Ikalisa. Had a very good game. He can come in and put a lot of pressure on the other players. And then, of course, that means Chigundu is in defense as a backup in case any of those guys has a challenge. And you think that this will warrant them to play strong, not fearing who can come in case they have maybe an injury or that, because this is a game where they have to fight and die a little for the badge.
Right, that is the UPDF setup, the UPDF Football Club team currently warming up, and I do believe we have the Vipers Sports Club lineup ready for us, and some big notable names in that starting 11, including the inclusions of some of the players that did miss out in their previous game against URA Tendo. Which player do you think is going to be the most important player for Vipers? The
most important must be Yunus Sentamu, who scored a hat-trick in the previous game against UPDF, where they won 4-0. And then, of course, Milton Karisa, who scored when they visited Bombo.
Yes, this is the lineup for Vipers Sports Club. Giacomo Kecha as the goalkeeper, Milton Karisa as the captain, Richard Matovo, Livingston Mulondo, Siraj Sentamu, Bright Anukani, Yunus Sentamu, Eric Kambale, Abdul Mala, Abdul Karim Watambala, and Rogers Torach. That is the lineup for Vipers Tendo. Pretty
very predictable. Jack Komakech retaining, coming back into his place. That is a good positive piece of motivation for him. Probably seeing Watambala back, it was a scare. But then Rogers Torach coming to partner Livingston Murondo is also a plus for him. That young lad is growing slightly in stature. Then, of course, Richard Matovu is definitely the mainstay there. And then you look at the situation where they have Brighton Ukani, Siraj Sentamu, and Karim Watambala, but again they have Eric Kambale, Abdulumala, and Yunus Sentamu. So you think that they're having 3 players up front.
Right.
But again, you have Milton Karisa. But the right back position looks...
What does it look like for you? I'm trying to look here for a right back. There is no right back.
So I'm thinking that I'm going to change the formation.
So you probably think it's a back 3 today?
It could be a back 3, because who is going to play right back? Milton Karisa.
Who do you think is going to play right back?
From the people that are named, I would think that they can use Milton Karisa, but
the guy that scored the goal.
It's a big gamble. It's a big gamble
in this year. Actually, he scored the goal this year.
It's really a big gamble.
Yes.
Yeah. Probably we've had mind games played on us. They still have a chance to change the team. I saw Obua also playing that. I saw Mike Mutebi doing that in a game against St. George. He named a funny lineup. You saw how KCC did it against Gaddafi. Yes. They had a team where eventually you saw Magambo in the midfield. So coaches have started to play a lot of things, especially because of the tactical variations the other coaches show.
All right, let us take you to the coaches' interviews and see what they have to say for this game. That is Pius Ngabo, and then, of course, the coach of Vipers, Coach Leon Eva.
Thank you very much. Of course, we don't have any selection headache, because we have a well-balanced team. All our players that we have, we plan them according to our opponents, and we select them according to our strategy. I think according to our strategy is the way how we shall select our players. And I think any player with us can fit in the team.
Vipers have always struggled against teams away from home, but your head-to-head with UPDF is in your favor. They are yet to win a single game against Vipers. Please tell us about the morale in the camp.
We have prepared the players very well. As you know, every game is a different game. It is another game in our hands that we need to win if at all we are to maintain our run on the table. and our strategy and our target to be a table contenders. All we have come here to pick is a win. Otherwise, I'm very sure that the players will die a little bit for the team to make sure that we pick the points.
Thank you, Coach.
You're most welcome.
Coach, UPDF is just win against Vipers since 2016. So this is your time at the time when you guys are not favourites. What should UPDF FC fan expect today?
Yeah, we've not been winning in the past fixtures, but I wasn't the one in charge. What I think we have prepared well and we are ready for this fixture. I don't think that our last game we have been not performing well. Not that we lost against the Royal, but in the previous game we have been looking good. We won against Bull, we won against Musoga, and we drew against Express here. So I think since we are here and this is our home ground, I expect it to fixture.
Is there any positive news in your camp?
Not so much, but we just welcome back Jibril, who has been having an injury, and Tabaneko is back in the squad. So I expect a good challenge today, and we are ready for whatever Vipers is going to present to us today.
Thank you, Coach.
Welcome.
So the assistant coach Richard Waswa of Vipers Sports Club, and then of course Pius Ngabo, the head coach of UPDF Football Club, giving us their thoughts on this game. And something interesting to pick out, Tendo, from Pius Ngabo is that the team hasn't been performing in the previous matches. Of course, they did get a win against Bull, but he spoke about the team not necessarily giving them 100% performances in the previous matches.
Yeah. Pius Ngabo is one of those coaches who would want a team to play very well. Remember, he has been assistant to coaches that play very well. He was assistant for Abdallah for some time. He was assistant for Kefa Chisala for some time. It's not a surprise that Kefa Chisala and Abdallah now are in charge. So you would think if he was jobless, he would have been one of those. At Express, he's the one that unearthed all the young players that we are seeing when he was there. And he has that academy called All Winners that has produced quite a number of players and who want to play very good football. So if he says he's not yet satisfied with the performance, it's much more like he wants to see the team playing the way he thinks. Much as they have gotten some results, he would want to be a coach of a side that can challenge, because UPDF is a big side also. From the days of Simba, you think that they are a championship winning side. The Simba itself was the first team to reach the final of the Africa Club Championship in 1972. Right. So they won a few titles in 1971 and 1978. And since those days of the 70s, they have been struggling. They had so many changes in names, resistance, military. They've had, when they came back in 1995, Paul Asule brought them as general headquarters. They came into promotion, even scored the winning goal. They let Paul Asule. Then eventually they became Simba. They had a very good run in the 90s there. They challenged for the trophy so many times. They even reached the Uganda Cup final against Sports Club Villa in 98. That is where they had the best lot. They had coaches like Mike Mutebi, Moses Basena, then they had Sam Timbe, they had Sam Simbwa. They were a very good side there. Until again in the mid-2010s there, when Kajoba came in, then they won the Uganda Cup in 2011. So after Kajoba, they have been moving as a very good side. But what made them fall from grace was the rule that everybody must be a soldier. And the few players they are left, they have produced quite a number of players like Wakaza, just Chirewa Mato, Geoffrey Chirewa Mato, Musa Mude. Now you think players like Ezekiel Katende have been there for quite some time. Yes. There was Oner Khalid for some time. Khalid Aucho also came from that side. Yes. But of late, that rule of having soldiers has kind of put them away from some players. And you remember when they had a player like Albert Mugisa, when he went into the army, he never came back. Of recent, one of them has returned, one of the key players in the previous time. Zinda Hussein is on the bench, the shirt 10, but he's not the same Zinda that we saw when he was playing for Utoda, and he even went and played in Seychelles as a professional. He played in Kenya for Karuturi Sports. He had that army course in the last 1 year and a half, and probably it didn't leave him the same. He's just coming back now to bolster the team, but you think that he's not at the competitive age yet. So that is why probably Pius is thinking that the remuneration of the army and all that deserves to be high up there, especially with the army having very good performing teams now like NEC, Gaddafi and all that. So you think that they are still underperforming by his standards. Yeah, so I think it's a good thing for him to be thinking positive. But against Vipers, probably it is biting a lot more than you can chew.
What should we expect in this game? Is this a game that you should be expecting a couple of goals, knowing that maybe some of the players of Vipers have returned to the starting 11, or should UPDF give Vipers a hard game today?
Well, they always get a hard game, Vipers, when they visit Bombo, and like when they visit many places. But the form they have currently and the energy they have used to reach that form means that they are prepared for this game. They haven't wasted so much energy getting the results they have. Like I'm saying, I've not seen them reach even 50% gear of what we know. And that is why probably even the team selection is troublesome. You don't see players who have stood out that deserve to be in the team every day, apart from Siraji Sentamu and maybe of recent Karim Watambara and probably Jack Komakech. All the others, save for Livingstone Mulondo, whose presence is because there is no competition. You would think if there was Juko, Mbowa and Hilary Mukundane, all of them on form, you would try to question. But he has been fortunate that he's the mainstay and he's the one that galvanizes the team when others come back. So for him, his selection is more automatic. It might not be on merit for say now, but he has earned it and he has brought about good results for them. But all the other players, including Yunus Sentamu, by the way, their positions can be questioned because they haven't reached the top gear. Milton Karisa, I think he deserves a rest. He has had a few 2-3 years, good years, and he deserves a rest. But the Milton I know, by the way, we coached him in Kansanga before he went to Bull. The guy likes to play football. He could play, and then you see him playing in the academy after the senior team has played. So he, to me, is like those players who you have to tell by force, go and get a rest, and he will be remonstrating by that. So he has kind of burnt out himself. I think the doctor there needs to give him a holiday somewhere,
I'm wondering,
probably Christmas holiday, so that he comes back 2 weeks later more galvanized. But for sure, you see a player who has played, put his body on the line in so many games when the team was struggling, risked so many injuries. You see all the time getting off on a stretcher and then coming back the next game. And you think, what is he feeding on? So he has kind of burnt out his body, more like the way we used to see the likes of Wayne Rooney and Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. So I think it's affecting his performance of late, and he's not getting the goals.
And that will be a big question as to who is going to play right back today.
He could be the one, don't be surprised.
That is going to be a big question, and I'm very sure we shall be waiting for that answer. But you can give your predictions, a quick one.
Well, I want to see goals. If the game does not have goals in the first half, it will be boring because UPDF will lock shop and choose to get a fifth draw in this tie. I want to see goals, and I'm hoping we could get like 1 or 2.
1 or 2?
Yeah.
So you're predicting a win in this game, not...
I'm predicting a win of either side.
Of either side.
Yeah, but I'm sure Vipers can get the goal.
Do you expect Paul Put to be in Bombo today?
He must be. He was in Luzira, and he's free. He needs to see all these players because probably you'll get hoodwinked. We have so many people who hype players just on the basis of what they want to achieve.
I'm going to have to hand you guys over to Lawrence Boneka, who is in commentary for the game between UPDF Football Club and Vipers Sports Club, kicking off at 3 p.m. We shall be back at halftime.